I think gardening is like a chess match that you're playing between you and nature. And if you want to win this game and you want to have a harvest like I had this summer, you need to think at least one step ahead. And that's why you need to be thinking about your fall garden now, in the summer. So if this is your first year gardening and you want to extend your growing season into fall, or if you never tried fall gardening because you were too scared, follow me in this video where I'll give you some tips and tricks how to be on top when planning a fall garden. I will tell you what you can plant and how to determine when is the last time you can plant. And in the meanwhile, I'll be preparing my raised bed where hopefully I will enjoy my fall garden in a month or two. So when does your time runs out? Most of the plants that will grow in fall have a 90-day growing period, so you need to have at least 90 days until the first frost date. And to find your first frost date, simply type first frost date and your city in Google and the first link should tell you. Then you need to find out how many days you still have. And for that, just type in Google how many days until and then type your first frost date. So last week when I was preparing my bed, I had around 90 days until my first frost date, and that's plenty enough for me. To make it easier, if you live in a zone 8 or higher, you're good to go. You have the time, but you should plant in the next week or so. If you live in a zone 6 or 7 like me, you're on the limit. You should plant right away if you want to have some harvest in the fall. And if you are in the zone 5 or lower, I'm sorry, but the time to plant some vegetables ran out for you. But I have something in mind that will help you for the next season. More on that later in the video. The next thing to decide is what to grow. And the best way to figure out what to plant is to figure out what you eat. It's pointless that you plant something you know you won't eat just to say that you did it or just to brag how much of a harvest you had. So in the fall you have two types of vegetables. The one that are eaten raw in salads or smoothies and the one that needs to be cooked for salads or soups. In the first category you have endive, which grows plentifully in the summer and autumn time, has little pests and diseases, and will not bolt fast like some lettuce. Then you have your beautiful but little bit bitter radicchio. Italians love it, and why shouldn't you? Try it out with some salads or stir fry it, and if you don't like the bitter taste, try to grow it with the cut and come again method. Young leaves, especially the ones grown in cold weather, don't have such strong taste. Next is a classic, the lettuce. It will grow nicely at the end of summer and at the beginning of autumn when the weather begins to cool a little bit, because it won't bolt so fast. Another cold-loving leafy green is corn salad. I can't wait to eat mine. This vegetable has tender and sweet leaves that I promise you will love at first try. My best recipe for it is in the salad with a hard-boiled egg and some freshly chopped garlic. Coming up is in my opinion the simplest to grow, radishes. You simply intersow them between your other crops. I will sow mine between my freshly planted plants and in 60 days or so I will have the first harvest. Last but not least in this category is cabbage. We can say that cabbage could easily be also in the upcoming category, but I think it's at somewhere in the middle. You can thin slice it and make a salad with it, or you can preserve it by pickling it. There are so many uses for this wonderful vegetable. So in the next category are the vegetables that you can boil for salads or you can cook them in soups and other delicious recipes. We can start with broccoli. This is one that in the summer heat will go to flower so fast that we won't be able to blink. But in the late summer and autumn, when the temperatures will fall a little bit, it will thrive. And if you have too many of them, you can chop them, then boil for 1 minute and freeze. That way you can use them in the winter for some tasty soups. One plant that you can plant this year and enjoy it also in the next is Brussels sprouts. I love them cooked and then served in the salad. Cauliflower is one crop that you can plant in the August and enjoy in the late autumn. I planted it in the spring, but that was a summer variety, and I also blend it now for the fall garden. I enjoy it fried or mixed into a soup, and I promise you, you won't regret trying it. And another crop that can be sown throughout the summer is carrots. They also fit in a fall garden because you can harvest them 12 weeks after sowing. Carrots can be placed in all categories because you can grate them and eat them in salads with some hard-boiled eggs, or you can boil them and eat in salads, or cook them in soups. A wonderful vegetable if you ask me. Another category that not all gardeners think about are short season summer varieties that need 60 days or so to produce harvest. Yes, they won't grow as many days as if you plant them in the beginning of the summer, but maybe you have enough time to make a harvest of two out of them. Especially cucumbers, zucchini or beans. They grow fast and I'm sure that will reward you. So if you run out of time for this season, or if you have a spare bed, I have a bonus tip for you. Don't leave it empty but plant a cover crop. They will leach nutrients into your soil and also protect it from unwanted weeds. So plant the cover crop now and let it die in the winter, so the next season in the spring you will have a freshly composted bed that will produce your new crops. Another tip I can give you if you are in the mood and have some plants or seeds laying around: experiment. Why won't you? Every experiment gives you some knowledge, and the more you know, the better you will be. The next thing I want to talk about is how I prepared my raised beds for the fall garden. You saw me in the beginning clearing my weeds a good foot or two from my raised bed. I did this because in the summer the weeds around my raised bed thrive, and they put out a lot of seeds, and I don't want those seeds landing in my raised beds. So I cleared them out and used them in the compost pile. That way they will turn into fresh compost for the next season, and instead of ruining my garden, they will help to mend it. But not only the weeds, also the topsoil that was scraped from the surface landed in the compost pile. Nothing goes to waste in my small garden. Next I need to turn the soil in the raised bed, and I'm so pissed that I didn't done that with the other beds in the spring. The soil was so compacted and I needed some work. The clay soil after you let it harden is hard like a rock, but I managed to break the heavy soil and spread it on my raised bed. And finally the time to use my compost arrived. Remember that I made a compost pile in April? Now it's time to use the compost. I waited for so long, but it was worth it. The compost is so soft, full of nutrients and life, and will promote growth in my raised beds. But when amending your raised bed with the compost, don't just throw it in. The trick here is that if you want to have a more fine soil in the raised bed, you need to overfill it. Then mix the soil with the compost and rake it. And when you rake it, do it so that the bigger pieces that you couldn't break and all the leftover sticks and stones fall off the raised bed. That way you will have a nice clean and smooth soil at the end, ready for planting. When the soil was nice and smooth, I created a grid for my square foot planting method. And if you want to know more about it, go to watch my other video where I talk the essential steps you need to take to start a square foot raised bed. For my fall garden I choose some broccoli, cauliflower, radicchio, Brussels sprouts and cabbage. It's all a first for me, but I'm confident that I will manage. One tip that I can give you here is to buy your seedlings from a local nursery. I can't stress enough how important it is to support your local farmers and what a good source of information they are. Also, if you need some more information on when to plant what in your region, ask them. Usually they're glad to help. The last step here is to water the plants and mulch the bed. I did it with some wood chips, but you can do it with hay or grass clippings. Just remember that in some countries using hay or grass clippings is not recommended because slugs can thrive in them. With watering, try to soak the bed or plant in such way that the summer storm is approaching, so it will water the garden for you. Now, if you want to know how this garden goes, or if you are a beginner gardener and want to improve your odds when growing your food in your garden, subscribe so you won't miss any gardening content from me. I hope you find this video informative, and also I hope that I inspired you to go out in your garden and plant for the fall. I promise you won't regret it.